How's about this one? Pennsylvania McDonald's franchise retains security after Trump's visit leads to threats. What a ridiculous case, man. The owner of a Pennsylvania McDonald's that made news over the weekend after Trump went there has retained private security following threats made to the location. Jim Worthington, a key organizer of Trump's visit to the Pennsylvania delegation, blah, 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 told the Daily Caller the McDonald's has received threatening phone calls and social media messages after the former president's appearance. In response, Giacomo Antonio, who had already hired private security ahead of the event, retained their services to protect his employees. Jessica Miho, a Bucks County resident, described the heightened security when she visited the McDonald's. We walked in, it seemed fine. We ordered and we sat down, but then we looked to our left and there were several armed guards just sitting there. One of the guards stepped outside and I saw him walking around our car. I thought he was checking if we have our insurance or something. Then my husband and I are like, these guys are security. These guys are really watching and seeing what's going on. It was then I made the connection to Trump. Despite the threats, Worthington emphasized that the community has overwhelmingly supported the restaurant. The community is really embracing it, and a lot of people have come here since Sunday just to patronize the restaurant. Now, I don't think it's solely just Kamala Harris that is causing things like this to happen. But certainly when she goes and gives a press conference, she's actually doing a town hall later tonight, which we don't care to watch because it's probably going to be painful. Empty words where she uses lots of them to say nothing. But it is true that as Democrats go on TV over and over again and prime a nation wound up as tight as can be, eventually that spring snaps back into the other direction, that energy gets released. And now you've got a McDonald's having to have private security because of death threats. There's a ton of crazy videos, right? We got this video that went viral. A woman goes to someone's house for no reason and asks her why she's voting for Trump and then yells at her, flicks her off. Lady, why did you come to this? Could you imagine you're at home and someone knocks on your door and for no reason, I just don't like you because you voted for Trump and now I'm going to scream in your face. These people are unhinged. And if some random old woman is really willing to cross that line of going to a stranger's house to insult them, imagine what someone who's truly crazy is willing to do as they ramp up this rhetoric. So I agree with Donald Trump.
Castle doctrine. I'm just joking.
Well, I mean, if someone breaks into your house and is threatening your life, we hope it doesn't get to that point.
Yeah.
But that's what I fear if the rhetoric keeps escalating in this regard. Kamala Harris and Democrats saying Trump is going to be Hitler. They're claiming he's going to use the military against the American public. He's never said that. That's insane. Look, man, it's projection. Mm-hmm. They say that Republicans are doing this thing and they're going to do that when Democrats are the ones who have a tendency for street level violence. Republicans don't do this. They try and cite January 6th over and over again, despite the fact that it's Democrats that in 2017 ransacked D.C. because Trump got elected. Then you have Democrats in May of 2020 setting fire to St. John's Church and firebombing the White House. And you have consistently with, say, the Summer of Love protests, it is leftists and Democrats. It's not Democrat leadership. It is run-of-the-mill regular folks who vote Democrat who are joining these protests and engaging in extreme degrees of violence.
It's sort of like that phenomenon of like people that have been abused do the abuse to other people. You'd think someone that receives abuse would be like, understand how horrible it is, worse than anyone else, and be the most likely not to do it again. But it's the weird cycle of like, look, it happened to me, so I'm going to project it onto others. And with people supporting movements that are perpetuating violence, like the pretty brutal burning down of cities and stuff during these riots, and just kind of like being kind of okay with it, you'll see the projection of that outside. It's like they're forcing that kind of abusive behavior now outside after they allowed it to happen, and the cognitive dissonance of like making themselves think it's normal because they don't want to seem like they were a victim or part of a problem. That's, I think, a lot of what's going on.
My concern is, well, I will start by saying Republicans, what is it, 1 out of 10 instances, is there someone on the right doing something? It's just been consistently over the past decade, as far as I've seen, longer than a decade, since go back to Occupy. What did Tea Party do? You ever see Tea Parties running around firebombing buildings and beating people up?
They were super calm.
Yeah, I remember going to
peaceful movement.
I went to Philly, and there was a Tea Party event, and it was a bunch of people sitting in lawn chairs. Then you go to these leftist protests, and they're smashing up windows, throwing things in the street, fighting with cops. That's just what they do.
Tea Party events, they like cleaned up after themselves. There were all these times that the Tea Party had protests or whatever, and they would always like take their trash out with them. And the place was, I mean, it wasn't perfect, because not everyone's on board, but like it was significantly cleaner than when the left has a protest where they break, like, not only is it a mess, but they like smash windows and light cars on fire and stuff.
The Tea Party guys didn't loot the Gucci stores?
No, they didn't.
Surprising, right?
Shocking.
Yeah, there were little old ladies with little American flags and red shirts and American, flag hats, and they're waving them in a lawn in Philadelphia. And I was like, well, this is boring. Yeah, it was funny because I've covered all these protests, and I was like, man, this is crazy. The cops are firing rubber bullets, and there's tear gas. And then I went to a Tea Party event, and I walked around, and nothing happened, and they're just sitting in lawn chairs, and then they left. And then after they left, they cleaned up their garbage and picked up the chairs, and I was just looking around like, but nothing happened. Like, I guess the challenge for people on the right especially is there's no news when you do that. And so the left actually wins politically in terrifying cases where, for instance, when at Trump's inauguration, when they ransacked D.C., they all got arrested and then sued the city, sued the federal government, and won $1 million. They had to pay them, the people doing the looting and the ransacking. That's fascinating.
Insane.
What did they sue them for?
I don't know the exact thing, but I think it was like false charges. The idea was this large group of people, many just black-clad hoodies, were smashing things, setting fires. The cops surrounded a big group of them and then just arrested everybody. And then when they tried charging them, the defense argued, how do you know my client is the one who committed those crimes? And they say, we don't, but they were part of a conspiracy to do it. They argued that if you show up at one of these rallies wearing black bloc, which is a hoodie, a mask, jeans, you are doing that to intentionally cover for other people who are going to be engaged in extreme violence. And then they argued to the judge, so some random guy who happens to be walking down the street wearing a hoodie and jeans is now part of a criminal conspiracy? You can't do that. So a handful of people actually pleaded guilty. And then once things started getting pretty hot, like more news, more attention, more protests over the arrests, and more lawyers got involved, everyone started pleading not guilty. And then eventually they were forced to drop the charges. And then they filed a lawsuit against the city and they won $1 million.
Like a class action?
I don't think it was a class action. I'm not sure. But they argued that it was like wrongful arrest without evidence. And it's D.C. They're all Democrats. They're going to side with leftist protests no matter what. They're sitting there being like, these people are protesting Donald Trump. Come on. Like, you want to win an election and you arrest the Trump protesters? Yeah, you're not going to be able to pull that off. Again, this is why I say civil war. Not because I've made it the idea, because if a Democrat goes out, look at the lockdowns. When they went out and marched in New York City for Black Lives Matter, they said, it was a Colorado Sun, ran an article, the Black Lives Matter protests reduced the spread of COVID. It's amazing. How about that? And then when people went out for free speech on the right, they had pictures of nurses standing in front of cars with their arms crossed being like, you're spreading disease. It's all just patently obvious to everybody. And I wonder if why the reason Donald Trump is doing so well is because people are just sick of this. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.